What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we're going to give you our updated Week 10 New Year's 6 Bowl projections. So we are looking ahead now at Week 10 of the college football season, and this is where I'm projecting things will go, who the teams will be in the New Year's 6 Bowl, which include the two semifinal games. And if you missed it yesterday, I went in depth with my playoff predictions, talked about those four teams, talked about the top contenders, the teams that I think could make it in. So again, if you missed that, I went through the entire college football playoff picture, also gave my predictions on not only who would make it into the playoff, but who would win it all, who would win the national championship this season. So go back and watch that, but we're going to quickly go through those and then get into the other New Year's 6 bowls here today. So we start with the Sugar Bowl, the first college football playoff semifinal. I've got Clemson versus Texas A&M. This is the 1-4 matchup. I really like A&M's path to get there. If they can win out, I think they could get there, and I think they have a good chance to win out. Clemson may not be number one. The way they look the last couple of weeks, it's kind of trending more towards Alabama. But then again, is the committee going to put a rematch, an SEC rematch in a semifinal? It doesn't matter, really. They don't set up the matchups for the playoff. They just rank the teams. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen there. But regardless, I think you'll see Clemson in one of the New Year's 6 bowls. And then right now I'm picking Texas A&M. I don't feel great about that pick, but I don't really feel good about putting anyone at number 4 right now. And then the other semifinal would be the Rose Bowl, Alabama versus Ohio State, which obviously would be a huge game, a great game. Whoever winds up in this semifinal, the 2 versus 3, it's going to be a fantastic college football game. One of the probably the best semifinal games that we've seen so far in the playoff era. And then I think the national championship is going to be really good this year. I don't think we're going to see blowouts. We might see a blowout in the 1 versus 4 semifinal matchup, but the other games in the playoff I think are going to be really good this year. And right now I'm picking Alabama and Ohio State to play in the other semifinal in the Rose Bowl. So let's get into the other New Year's 6 bowls, the other 4 bowls. And it's, this year it's kind of different because you don't have a lot of rules. You have the Orange Bowl, which has to be an ACC team versus either an SEC team, a Big Ten team, or Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame qualifies this year because they're in the ACC, so I don't think you're going to see an ACC team versus Notre Dame. I'm not 100% sure on that rule, but either way, I don't think the committee would want to go that route. So yeah, it's going to be an ACC team versus an SEC or Big Ten team. And then also you've obviously got to have a group of 5 champion in there. And it has to be a group of 5 champion, not a non-Power 5 team. A lot of people still kind of think that BYU could get that spot. No, it has to be a group of 5 champion. BYU would have to be ranked high enough to get in as an at-large. But they just, outside of that Orange Bowl, they just set the bowl matchups up really however they want. There are no rules. But we're going to start with the Orange Bowl. And I am now projecting it to be Miami versus Georgia here in the Orange Bowl. I don't think the Big Ten is going to get a second team. I think Ohio State makes the playoff. I don't think anyone else is going to make it out of the Big Ten this year. I think Penn State was the team that you kind of looked at, and then Michigan looked like maybe they would after week 1 would be a team that could get there, but then after this past weekend, I don't think Michigan's going to get there either. Wisconsin's not even playing many games. I don't know how many games they're going to wind up playing. So I don't really see a team out of the Big Ten, so that means we have to go SEC here. I think Georgia will have 2 losses, whether they lose to Florida or they lose to Alabama again in the SEC championship. I think this team will finish with those 2 losses. And then we're looking at the highest ranked team out of the ACC. This is very complicated. It's going to be Miami or Notre Dame, I think, but it's hard to really say who it's going to be. We don't know which team is going to make it to the ACC championship. And I think actually whoever makes it to the ACC championship could wind up being ranked lower because they're going to have an additional loss, which is not the way it should be. I don't think you should ever fall below it. I said this before. If you're playing in a conference championship game and you lose, you should not fall behind a team that did not play a conference championship game. You shouldn't be penalized for playing in an extra game and making it to a conference championship game. But that's really not the way they do it when they rank these teams. So, it's really a toss-up, Miami or Notre Dame here. I'm going to go with Miami. I don't really know who's going to make it to the championship game. I think it's actually more likely that Notre Dame loses a second game, loses someone outside of Clemson. and finishes with 2 losses. But at the same time, I think it's more likely that Notre Dame beats Clemson compared to Miami. It's very tricky. I've been on Miami the last couple of weeks, so I'm just going to stick with Miami. Miami versus Georgia here in the Orange Bowl in what would be, I think, a great game. And then we go to the Peach Bowl. We've made some changes here because Oklahoma was not even on the radar. But now I'm looking at this team. I'm looking at how they're playing. I see Oklahoma State now with 1 loss. Oklahoma gets them at home. I think they can win that game. We might see a rematch, Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. We might see Oklahoma versus Iowa State. They've already got the tiebreaker over Texas. Kansas State's probably not going to finish with 2 losses. So I think Oklahoma might actually, at the end of the day, win the Big 12. They've got the most talent, in my opinion. You can make an argument for Texas, but they've got probably the best play caller in the Big 12 in Lincoln Riley. They're playing at such they're playing so much better ever since that second half of that Texas game, or late in that Texas game, whatever. They really kind of turned it on. Spencer Rattler, I think something changed in him. He grew up, and this Oklahoma team, I think, is going to be very good down the stretch. I've got them winning the Big 12 right now. I don't feel confident. I still think it might go to Oklahoma State. Those are the 2 teams that I'm considering. I think one of these 2 teams does win the Big 12. I'm going to go with Oklahoma right now. The path might be better for them just because they get Oklahoma State at home during the regular season, and Oklahoma State might not even make it to the Big 12 championship game if that happens. There are a lot of different scenarios at play here. But I've got Oklahoma, and then I've got Florida as an at-large team. I think just like Georgia, whoever wins on Saturday, the winner of that game will lose to Alabama in the SEC championship. The loser of that game will finish with 2 losses. So I think both of those teams are going to be ranked high enough to make it into a New Year's Six Bowl. And how about the 2 offenses here? Oklahoma versus Florida in the Peach Bowl. That would be an exciting game. And I know, you could say Florida versus Miami. You'd love to get that matchup. But we saw that in the regular season last year. We've seen Georgia versus Oklahoma. I think maybe the committee goes this route. And you just look at this matchup between these 2 offenses, Oklahoma and Florida. Maybe that'll be a funner matchup. Or maybe they do go with that. Maybe they go with Oklahoma versus Georgia, Florida versus Miami. So either way, I think those would be great matchups there. And then in the Fiesta Bowl, how about this? We've got BYU versus Cincinnati. I've got Cincinnati as the highest ranked Group of 5 champion at the end of the season. So they're automatically in. I still think they might lose a game somewhere along the way. Schedule is just going to be pretty tough for them. I don't know if they can run the table, but I think they win the American, and they're the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. BYU, I think, could get in as an at-large, and obviously we're going to find out a lot tonight. BYU versus Boise State. BYU loses that game, they're done. They have no chance. And then possibly if Boise State runs the table and Cincinnati loses a game, we could see Boise State as the Group of 5 team, and then Cincinnati might not make it in. So there are major implications tonight in that game. BYU versus Boise State, going to be a huge game and really affect the overall landscape of college football. But if BYU goes undefeated, the way the Big Ten is not looking great right now outside of Ohio State, I think BYU could sneak up in the rankings just high enough to where they could make it into a New Year's Six Bowl, and we could get BYU versus Cincinnati. Some people would like this matchup. Other people want to see, BYU play a Power 5 team, see Cincinnati play a Power 5 team. I really don't know which way the committee would look at it. I think if you can get 3 marquee matchups with Power 5 teams playing each other, and then have one bowl game where it's not going to get maybe as many eyeballs, I think they probably go that route versus 2 games that are Power 5 versus Group of 5, and maybe the games are not close. Or maybe, I really don't know. I don't know which way. I would love to know what you guys think. Had you rather see BYU versus Cincinnati in this scenario, or had you rather see BYU versus a Power 5 team and Cincinnati versus a Power 5 team just to see what they can do? I would love to know what the perception is, or what you guys would like to see in that scenario. So let me know down in the comments. And then we have one more bowl game. It's the Cotton Bowl. We've gone back to it. USC versus Notre Dame. I projected this a couple of weeks ago and was actually on this for several weeks. Things kind of changed around a little bit. I couldn't set this matchup up last week because of just the rules and the way I had to match up all the teams. But I think now we can go back to this Cotton Bowl, USC versus Notre Dame. They don't play in the regular season, obviously. I think it would be awesome to see these two teams go at it in a bowl game. We could still get this rivalry matchup to close out the season. And I think it'll be a great game. USC's offense, I think, is going to be very dangerous this year. Best offense in the Pac-12. That's why I've got them winning the Pac-12. And Notre Dame's a really good football team. Really, on both sides of the ball, they are sound. And the rivalry and all that, I think, will just make this game fantastic. So USC versus Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. I hope we see this matchup. But, Notre Dame is still in the running for the college football playoff. A big game against Clemson on Saturday. If they win that, they have a very good chance of making it to the college football playoff. I mean, a really good chance, because I think they could even lose to Clemson in the ACC championship in a rematch and still possibly get in as a number 4 team. That'll be very interesting if it does happen. I'm kind of leaning still towards Clemson in that game, but I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a great game. And if it plays out this way, where these two teams are in play for a New Year's Six Bowl, I think we definitely need to see USC versus Notre Dame. What do you guys want to see? What do you think about my projections? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.